The most distinct feature I remember about the house is the tree in the back. Its long branches stretch out like fingers, cutting up the sky into little puzzle pieces when you look up from under it. It used to mesmerize me, but the branches were higher then, and too low now. By fall, the ground around the tree would be littered with walnuts. When I was younger, I could never crack them open. I would try, but I wasn't strong or old enough. I didn't know how. We would bring them in, laughing, and eat them together, sitting at the table. But always up at the counter was my grandpa, Atachi, my sister and I called him. I remember his laugh at times like these. It still echoes in my memory. We would jokingly talk about him, his witty comments, unforgettable stories, and whimsical sayings. At the time, I chuckled along with them. But who was I to do so? I realize now I only experienced a handful of those moments. I regret not asking for them more often. I regret not knowing him, at least in the way my older family who laughed around the table knew him. I wasn't strong or old enough. I didn't know how at the time. But I should have had those conversations, instead of watching his favorite westerns alongside him in silence. Only when I began to have trouble speaking did I realize how much I missed his voice. The way it seemed to wrap up the room and bounce off the walls. I wish I could remind myself of the noise, but my memory scarcely stretches that far. The sound of his whisper, when he struggled to speak, muffles the memory. Looking back, I see that only the shadows of his true character dance before me. The shadows of him, like the stretching branches of the tree. I was too young, too naive to turn around and see him for who he truly was. Instead, I was focused on the puzzles made before me. But how was I to figure that out so young? Maybe I wasn't supposed to. I still wish I had. He used to take us out in his old golf cart and drive for what seemed like miles to the old metal barn. Looking at it now, I see it so much closer than I remembered. But after a while, he couldn't take us out anymore. There wasn't enough gas in the tank. When we would have to sit, he would always still watch us play. My sister would hide the tobacco from him. To her it was a game. He played along, but he always found it. Later, we would lie against him. I would hear the reassuring thump of his heart in his chest. I would learn later that his heart would not always be so dependable. And I can still hear the sizzling sound of the stove, making bacon and hash browns. I heard it every morning I was with him. The scrape of the fork against his plate. The grin that spread across his face, infectiously, like the cancer that took him, our Atachi from us.